Good morning from Europe. Thursday, the last trading day of April 30, 2026. We'll be with you with a short market update, political, geopolitical, whatever news, analysis, and data that you need to know to manage your assets in the financial markets. We just had an amazing day. While Peter exits and Senate was trying to defend for $250 billion budget that he was asking, or the United, just like White House is asking for the Department of War, King Charles had an amazing speech in the United States, Senate addressing the Senate in the United States. Donald Trump is going to have a meeting in few hours with his team about the Iran war, while the Iranian they didn't accept the American points. And while yesterday, when the Putin called Donald Trump about the Iran war, the offers that they gave, the Russian gave, was not accepted by Americans. So the situation is very confusing. Anyhow, let's go one by one. On the geopolitical side, Iran wars tensions increasing. That's increased the tensions in the market. We can see the VIX again around 20.50, while it was under 90 yesterday for a few hours at least. So the risk is high. While the risk is high, the geopolitical tensions is high, the financial markets is down. That's what happened and what is happening. Iranian says that they won't talk about the nuclear bomb and nuclear project that they have after the opening the Hormuz by America. Well, they were the first who closed the Strait of Hormuz. Anyhow, the American didn't accept it, and Donald Trump said that they are ready to continue the blockade as long as it's needed. That's what the American response. And now we know that today is going to be a meeting in White House, and they probably can decide about the short and fast military attack. What's going on exactly? I don't know. What will happen exactly? I don't know. But what I can understand, the situation is high, and we can understand it from the price action. And what the price action means, the price is acting or reacting to the geopolitical news even before they happens. And now we can see the oil price higher, stocks down, crypto down, and all these things are happening usually after before war starts. Usually, not 100%. Usually, that's what's happening. Especially you know that when you had more than 2 weeks of blackout, and before that you had almost 40 days war, and then 2 weeks of blackout, and then you had no results. So that's all going to end by another war and de-escalation, that just like increasing the escalations in the Middle East. That's the bad news. In United States, we know that the King Charles came and had a speech. Sounds like he was trying to get the US and UK closer together. We could understand that from his speech and what the Donald Trump had a comment about that. Sounds like that, and I hope so, because I hope that the British can understand their mistake and where they are standing wrongly, and they can correct themselves. Anyhow, that's what happened there. And interesting, the Democrats also they stand up for him. Just like, wow, the Democrats also king up. The king is good uh, if it's in the UK, but not good for the Persian, not good for the Americans. Anyhow, that's what the Democrats yesterday said to everyone. Anyhow, that's what happened there. The king is good, but it's not for us. The king is bad if it's in America. The king is bad if it's in the if it's in Persia. And this is like yesterday, the King Charles, when he came to them and just like talk about the history, said that, well, 250 years ago, when which we call it another day in United Kingdom. And I don't want to say the King Charles. Maybe you call 250 years ago the American history as just another day. And Italian, Persian, and Egyptian, they call 900 years of all the history from the very beginning day of United Kingdom and history of the United Kingdom, which is just 225 years, even less than Americans. What we call it in Persia, in Greece, in Italy, in Egypt, to all your 900 years history, we call it just in recent days. So I don't know. That's why I know that I can say that's why you care too much of history. They're coming back, the Egyptians, Greece, and Iranian, Persian, back to their reality. Anyhow, that's what happened in the White House and in the Senate, and what's going on in the geopolitical tensions. Let's go to the central banks. Bank of Canada held the rates at 2.25% with no surprise. That's what we were expecting. But Federal Reserve had made a surprise. First of all, held the rates unchanged at 3.75%, between 3.50 and 3.75%. That was not a surprise. The surprise was on voting numbers. We had the biggest difference or disagreement between the members of the just like Federal Reserve members since back in 2001 from 90s. Yeah, it's like more than 25 years, yeah, 25 or 26 years ago. The last time that we had such a big disagreement, it was more than 25 years ago, in the Federal Reserve. And that shows actually, if you go deeper in looking at the US economic data, the news that we had, and especially if you go deeper and read uh, the beige book that we had just like 10 days ago, 8 of 12 states in the report, they showed the better economic growth compared with the previous, just like published. And that in the previous published, it was 7 out of 12 areas of Federal Reserve, they reported better economic growth. An interesting other surprise. Out of the rest of the four, two of that four members, that four areas, they reported weaker economic growth, and two just not natural, which was like weaker growth in a previous report. That shows that why this such a big disagreements is coming up between the members and why the members are so looking so different. So I mean, they have such a big disagreement of uh, on the voting, because what they can see here is that in a different state, the economy situation is a different. That's why, because it's such a big, just like disagreement in the votings and how they are looking to the economic situation generally. Anyhow, uh, that was one surprise. Another surprise actually could be the surprise, could not be the surprise in both sides. What how you look at that. Mr. Powell, Jay Powell said that he is going to be in the Fed as a Fed governor until the end of his period, extra period actually which he can use if he want. So even though just like it's going to be by end of January 2027, if I don't mistake, even though the Kevin Marsh is so close to be uh just like how can I say this because wow, sometimes the words are I can forget the words. Yeah, it's just it's so close to be accepted or get approved. Sorry, yeah, so close to get approved by the Senate to be as the next Fed governor. Anyhow, that's what's happening in the Federal Reserve, and the Fed was hawkish in the tone and very careful about what is going on. Again, we are going to the data that based on the data and in the futures, all blah 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 stories that we had in all the meetings. But generally, the tone was hawkish, and that was one of the reasons that we had markets uh, just like ending lower last night, and now still the futures market are also trading low. Another topic, important topic that yesterday we had was the earnings. Earnings, we had somehow, I can say this, amazing earnings in the numbers that they published, but disappointing on their outlook and their perspective that just like they gave from the future quarters. Google or Alphabet, Microsoft, Amazon, and Meta. The four of big, just like four of the seven big or seven giants that we had, mega caps, they could beat both EPS and revenue in the numbers. But looking at the price after market, Google gained by, or still gaining by 6.8%. Amazon is up by 1.8%, but meta platforms losing by more than 7%, and Microsoft is down by almost 1.4%. Mostly because of the AI investment that they had, especially in Microsoft and Meta. Microsoft actually, yeah, the Microsoft actually is losing also after that yesterday news. We talk, if you remember, we talked about uh, OpenAI and Microsoft, how their new agreement and the new relation is going to happen. The Microsoft somehow is loose by that as well, but still, the meta platforms couldn't convince the market that their investment in the AI area is as like successful as the OpenAI or other, just like Gemini or this other AI. So they just lost more than 7% in stock prices. Yesterday we had like AstraZeneca and some other well-known companies or the stocks also. They could beat the expectations. EB could do expectations, but lost the stock price and others. Today also we're gonna have very important data reports such as Apple, just like one of the most important numbers that we're gonna hear today. MasterCard, Illinois, AstraZeneca, and again, I mean, other stocks that SanDisk. SanDisk is very important. Let's see what's going to happen with the SanDisk. Yeah, those are the names that we are waiting today to hear about their results and their earnings as well. With these results, news, and updates that we had yesterday and last night, we had Dow Jones close 0.6% down, lower S&P 500 and Nasdaq, they closed natural. But in the future market, Dow Jones is losing by another 0.6%. US 500 is down by 0.2%, and Nasdaq also is almost 0.2% down, trading lower 0.15. The same situation also, we have this like in the futures market in Europe. DAX in Germany is more than 1% down. CAC 40 in French is 1.21 down. FTSE 100 in UK is 0.05 down percent. Eurostock 60 is just Eurostock 50, sorry, is down by more than 1%. All these numbers showing that the markets are very carefully watching the world news and this care too much about what gonna happen there, especially in the Middle East and between Iran and the United States. That's the normal reaction. Same situation we have in Asian stocks. All Asian main stocks are red, starting from the Australia and New Zealand, such as ASX 200 is down by 0.2%. Nikkei in Japan is losing by 0. I don't know, let's say 1%. Kospi in South Korea 1.4% down. Nikkei, Nifty in India, Nifty 50 is down by 1.1%. Hang Seng in Hong Kong is losing by 1.2%. FTSE 50 in China down by 1.4%. Generally, all the stocks are down. And same scared market or concerns we can see in the cryptocurrency market with Bitcoin by losing just like Bitcoin is down by 1.7%, down under $76,000, 75,750. Ethereum trading around 2,250. Ripple is down by $1.36. Same others, all the cryptocurrency market are down, and that's why we can say the market is right now is trading with more risky expectations than the normal situation. And you can see the gold around $4,600 down from previous days. Brent oil now is trading around $112. One WTI is around $108. That's for the spot market. That's for future market actually, and the spot market is sort of the higher price. You could see around $120. One of the spot markets is like Brent oil. It was $125, something like that. 124 actually, just like 3 hours ago. But interesting. The natural gas is down to $2.63. That's interesting because actually we don't have too much we don't have too much problem with the natural gas supply right now, but the oil is up. Anyhow, that's what's happening in the market with the prices. And looking at the economic calendar, yesterday in the economic calendar, besides this, just like central banks meetings, we had another important numbers to watch. Inflations in European economies, European, just like euros and European economies. The primary numbers for the April, they showed that increase in inflation is still up and should be concerned. But another interesting numbers that we have to talk about, it was the surveys, the several surveys that we had in the Eurozone, such as consumer inflation expectations, selling price expectations, business and consumer survey, industrial sentiment and service sentiment, consumer confidence. All of them, they are falling, while the inflation expectations is increasing. Inflation expectations are increasing. That shows that the European believe whatever it's not important that it's right or not, which is right, but at least the people they believe in Europe that economy is losing its momentum while inflation is increasing. That means stagflation. So goodbye European economy, at least for the short term. You can sell your European stocks or sell the euro. That's what's happening there. In Italy, we could see the same action in Italy. Italy's 5 years bond just like losing its interest. Now it's like 3.32%. No one is ready to buy it. 5 years bond action is down from 4.27 to 3.77%. It's just like Italy is like bond market showing that no interest in the market now. In United States, we had NBA 30 years mortgage rate up from 3.65% to 3.37%. That's why we had applications down by another 1.6% last week. Building permits uh, fell. The housing starts fell by 3% in February. Like building permits fell by increase actually. No, is that it's like building permits numbers. The numbers I have, the percentage I want to show you that building permits fell by increased by 10.9%. Sorry, building permits increased by 10.9%, but building starts fell by 3% in February, showing that the market is slightly cautious, slightly not good, not bad, cautious. It's like looking what's happening. I mean, the mix of these two numbers. But we had interesting numbers as well. The core durable goods orders on a monthly basis in March increased by 0.9%, better than expectation, but down from previous 1.2%. But durable goods orders monthly in March increased by 0.8%, and good durable orders non-defensive, excluding the air defense actually, airlines, aircrafts increased by 3.3%. That's interesting, showing that the markets are fine. Looking at yesterday's Red Book numbers, they're saying that the U.S. Retail sales increased by 7.7% annually last week. Shows that just even though the economic situation is not just like so, I mean, the people are not so confident about the economic situation, about the war and all this concern, but still, they're spending good and they have a good spending in the market, and the market turnover is fine, and the consumer they're ready to spend their money. So that's why you could see these numbers higher. It shows that the economy, with all concerns, are still moving forward, at least compared with the other economies, like if you compare the U.S. with the Europeans, you can see the better situation in U.S. economy so far. Yesterday we had EIA weekly report as well. We could see that the crude oil inventories fell by 6.23 million barrels last week. That sounds like negative news for the just like energy prices, well, especially in such a critical situation. But so yeah, just the inventories just fell lower. Almost the same reaction, same numbers. We had not the same numbers, but the same trend. We had in the API numbers, API report as well. US inventories are falling down, especially the gasoline inventories also. Gasoline inventories fell by more than 6 million barrels. That's like crude oil inventories fell by 6.23. The gasoline falling by 6 million barrels is very surprised actually. That was the positive news for the oil price, but not such a good news for oil inventories and oil markets. Anyhow, that was what happened yesterday, and in Europe, so we had the Russian numbers as well, and in the European zone, Eurozone actually, not in the Eurozone, in Europe. generally. Retail sales in Russia increased by 6.2% in March. Amazing numbers. Unemployment rate slightly increased from 2.1% to 2.2%, still very good. But another surprise was Russian real wage growth increasing by 8.6%. That's much higher than inflation, as the report shows, and that's why we can say that the labor market in Russia is still fine and strong, while the business confidence falling by 3.2% between the business owners. That was what happened in Russia, and yesterday, generally, the economic calendar. Today, so far, we had interesting and other very interesting numbers, such as like industrial production in Japan falling by 0.5% monthly, while the large scale retail sales annual increased by 2%, and generally, the retail sales just like in the private sector, is increased by 1.7%, showing that the Japanese market are mixed but positive. Mixed but positive, especially industrial production for next 2 months is expected to increase by 2.2%, and for next 1 month, 2.1%, generally showing that the market is expecting just like better economic growth. While in Korea, industrial production increased by 3.6% in March, industrial production annually, but monthly scale increased only 0.3%, but still fine. I mean, generally, not bad, not bad. Chinese somehow disappointed the market with the Chinese composite PMI down to 50.1 from previous 50.5, especially known that non-manufacturing sector or the service sector is down again under 50 expectations area down from 50.1 to 49.4, while manufacturing PMI is down to 50.3 from previous 50.4. Generally, the market says that the Chinese economic data is not as good as earlier expectations, but still just like not that bad as Europeans. Situation is like middle, just like natural somehow. Especially you can see the composite number at 50.1. It's like the national level almost. Household confidence in Japan also we had earlier today down from 33.3 to 32.2. Slight almost 1 point number is lower, showing that the Japanese again are getting slightly more cautious, even though the retail sales increase. But again, the confidence is somehow weaker. Just like they are getting again more cautious about how they want to spend their money. The Japanese they have to think about that, how they can convince their citizens to go out and spend their money. That's one of the issues that Chinese actually also have. The Europeans also have, but in Europe the situation is a little bit different. It's because that they don't have it. Even if the government they convince them to go out and spend their money, they don't have the money to spend. But in Japan, at least they have money to spend, but they don't go out to spend their money. In Germany, we had retail sales falling by 2% monthly and annually. That's what I'm telling that the Europeans are not spending their money, but not because that they don't want, because they don't have it to go out and spend it. In French, CPI increased by 1%, inflation. PPI increased by 0.2%, CPI annually in April increased by 2.2%, showing that the French, same. The French also, they don't spend the money, but they have higher inflation. Another good job for Europeans, how they can destroy their own economy very fast, very good. I don't know how the good job they do. They should be very worried about the European economy, just like I'm joking with these, but with these numbers, but it's not a joke in real life, that they have to really think deeply about that. Later today, we're going to have German labor market data and then GDP numbers, Italian GDP numbers. Again, I'm not positive at all about the European economies. Same for the Eurozone, whole Eurozone inflation numbers, which is again expected to increase by more than 3% in April. Not again a surprise with the oil and gas price that we have in Europe. Inflation numbers from South Africa will be out as well. In South Africa, also inflation is expected to increase around 1.9%. Say about that. But market today will focus on three things. UK central bank meeting or BOE Bank of England meeting, which is expected to hold the rates at 3.75%. No surprise on that. The only thing that we have to watch is that the number of the votes, how many members they vote for holding the rates, which is market expecting 8 of 9 members to vote for holding the current rate and 1 vote for rate hike. This is what market expected. So the number of these votes will be matter for the market, and also later we're going to have the European Central Bank meeting, ECB meeting as well, where again we're expecting to see the 2% rates to be held. No change there. We don't expect any changes there. And I don't think that going to be market will look at that so carefully, because it's expected to do. I mean, it's so clear what they want to do. And they will hold the rate, and in the statement will be so cautious. We are waiting for the numbers to what to decide. I don't think any surprise that Ms. Lagarde has to tell us. And then later in the United States, we're going to have the PC price index, personal income and spending numbers, price index. We added the core PC price index annually, which is right now is 3% and expected to increase to 3.2%, is the main inflation measure of Federal Reserve. So that's why you have to go and watch this number very carefully, very closely, to understand what Fed can expect. For the first quarter, core PC price index expected to increase to 4.1% from previous 2.7%. That's also very important for the markets. But the personal spending expected to increase by 0.9% in March. And personal income, where is the personal real income? Yeah. Anyhow, just like to look at those numbers will be very important to all these details. But the continuing jobless claims, initial claims, all Thursdays. These numbers you have to watch as all Thursdays. These numbers. I expect the initial claims for the unemployment benefits to again stay around 210,000. So I mean, not a big surprise. I don't think that we're gonna have any big surprise. And 4 weeks average around also 210,000. It's like this is what I do expect to see as a just like applies to receive the unemployment benefits. These numbers are the most important numbers that we're expecting to see today in the markets, and the market reactions will be based on the results of these numbers. Generally, what we can say is that market is still cautious, especially for the cryptocurrencies. Stock market cautiously negative, and also say maybe the gold, but gold is not going to be so much negative, but still under pressure. As we are cautiously positive for the US dollar, bond yields, and oil prices. This is what happened, what's happening, and what we can expect as for the numbers and the decisions. And I don't remember if I talked about the BCB as well. The Brazilian Central Bank also had a meeting. If I say it, so I repeat. If I not, I'm saying earlier yesterday, actually in the last hours, we had a central bank meeting in Brazil as well. BCB was, while the market was expecting for the holding the rates. I actually in a weekly report I talked about the 25 basis point rate cut, which is the Brazilian economy need. And yesterday they did that. Good job, because even though the inflation around 4% in Brazil, we know that the economic growth is under pressure, and Brazil needs to have a slightly more, at least somehow, the dovish policies to support the economic growth. That's what's happening in Brazil as well, and what's our expectation for the market generally. Hope it was useful for you. Talk to you tomorrow. Have a good day. Bye-bye.